Hey guys, it's Casey, and welcome back to my channel. Now, I literally just got back from Wolf Creek about 20 minutes ago, and I need to go to work in about 2 hours because I'm working the night shift and won't be finished till 11 a.m. in the morning. So I need to film this and get this out quick. Was going to Wolf Creek, the 20-hour journey, a productive use of time? No, it really wasn't. We were literally there for about 20 minutes to gather some rocks, and then we did our civil duty of scaring some tourists because, as Nate puts it, tourists only go to Wolf Creek in hopes of encountering a serial killer. So we scared some tourists and then calmed them down by playing Spice Girls. It's a whole bit. I don't know why we do it, but they get a lot of joy and laughter out of it in the end. So we're always happy to oblige. But now I'm back and I'm about to go to work, so I need to film a topic that I can talk about very easily and very quickly. And luckily I do have one on hand, which I feel is the overarching theme and cause of the rest of the issues in this series. So there's this strange little paradox that I've observed in the time that I've been here. You all, as a society, have a very strange love-hate relationship with capitalism. In one breath, you're ranting about greedy corporations and wealth inequality, and in the next breath, you're ordering next-day delivery from Amazon while sipping on disgustingly overpriced lattes. It's like watching somebody rail against fast food while actively deep-throating a Big Mac. It's confusing, it's a little bit tragic, and honestly, it's a little bit funny. So in case you're struggling to follow along what the issue is, let me paint a picture for you. You get up in the morning and the first thing you do is that you scroll through TikTok on your brand new overpriced smartphone, all the while sipping from a $7 latte that you ordered from a corporation that you were actively boycotting only last week. And while you're scrolling, you're passing video after video after video of people just complaining that the greedy billionaires are ruining absolutely everything. And as you're watching it, you're liking and agreeing with everything they're saying. But then you put the phone down. And the next thing that you do is that you go online and order overnight delivery from the world's largest online retailer, owned by the world's second richest man. The moral dissonance of it is absolutely startling. It's like watching somebody call for help from a burning house while pouring fuel on the flames. And yes, sure. I understand that the optic itself is very difficult, borderline impossible to avoid. You live under a system, so of course you need to interact with that system on some formal level. But it's not so much the engagement that I'm pointing out as much as it is the hypocrisy of the situation. You all very loudly proclaim to despise capitalism while you actively chase its perks like a cat chasing a laser pointer. And the very worst thing about it all is that you're not even honest about it. You all act like you want anarchy and to rage against the machine when really you're just frustrated that the machine isn't working in your favor. You don't want to dismantle capitalism, you just want your slice of the pie. You want the comfort, the convenience, the options. You want the benefits without the guilt, the freedom without the cost. Here's the ugly truth about the situation. You are the system. You are the one who votes it in, you are the one who keeps it in power. Every dollar you spend, every swipe on your phone, every late night Uber Eats order is actively feeding the beast. And until you reconcile with that, your rants about capitalism are about as hollow as motivational posters in a corporate HR office. And this by no means is a pro-capitalist statement. On the contrary, I grew up under socialism, and I mean real socialism, the type of socialism that would give Karl Marx warm tingly feelings in his pants. And I had an amazing time. I saw the very best that socialism had to offer. But that's because, and I can say that with my whole chest, because I grew up near the very tip of the socialist MLM pyramid. But the vast majority of you would not have such a good time under socialism, and that's just the raw reality of the truth. And another very bitter, difficult pill to swallow is that I think the loudest voices in the pro-socialist movement are the ones least equipped to actually live and thrive under a socialist system. And again, I am coming to you as someone who had an incredible experience under socialism and think that as a system, it works incredibly well when applied properly and longevity across the board. I don't think it works very well in the initial stages. For the first 100 or so years, it kind of falls apart. But after that, once everything settles down, I think it works really well when, again, applied properly, which I don't think it has been in your time even remotely applied properly. But anyway, the point that I'm trying to make is that I like to have conversations with pro-activists for socialism because I find it very interesting to see where their minds are at. And I come to these conversations genuinely without judgment and without critique. And I just like to hear what they have to say about different aspects of socialism And I just don't think that their idea of socialism is set in reality of the system itself. It's always very much, oh, I want to, I want to write, or I want to do music, or I want to paint, and I want to, get a universal income and have housing that I can, rely upon. That's, if you want to paint or write or do music as your day-to-day job, socialism is probably not the system for you. Because under a socialist system, if that's what you're going to do, you're going to need to either A, be born into a rich family because generational wealth still very much exists under socialism, or two, you're going to have to be cherry-picked at a very young age by the state and sent away to school to practice that and develop those skills for the good of your community. You're still not going to be able to just sit around and paint and do music all day, however you want to do it. You're going to have to do it in a way that benefits the society, that's whether you're being paid and going to school to do. And again, the vast majority of you would not be cherry-picked to do that. And so you're going to have to go to work and do something and contribute to the community in some other way, whether you want to or not, whether you want to sit around and do music all day or not. You have to do that, and if you refuse to do that, well, it's not going to end very well for you. Housing is another area that I like to dissect with pro-socialist activists. And again, I don't think their ideas of housing under socialism is really based in reality. For example, where I grew up, the system was that we had provinces and you could apply to move between the provinces. And so you would apply to the province state office and they would either approve your request or they would decline your request. And when they approved your request, you would get your papers to enter the province and they would give you a slip that you would take to a real estate office and it would tell you how long your leasehold lasted for, the size property that you could have, the area in which you could live or could not live, the conditions for that, and also how much money that you could put into your leasehold. So the price range. So you would take that little ticket to a real estate office and they would find you the perfect house. And it was very much based, and I know this is like a right-wing, like dog whistle, but it was very much based on your social credit for that specific province. And each province had their own social credit networks. So if you had very low social credit within the province and your profession wasn't in high demand, you might only get a leasehold for like a year. And then after a year, you could apply again. And at that point, they could decide whether or not they were going to expel you from the province if you had antisocial behavior or whatever. The flip side of that is that if you wanted to move out of the province and your area of expertise, your profession was in high demand, they could decline your application to move out of the province and refuse to give you a reference to take to the next province that you wanted to move into. And it actually worked really, really well, especially because you could get expelled from a province if you were antisocial or if people didn't like you. Like, people could actually rally and petition the state to expel you from the province if they didn't like you very much. So you had to be really well behaved and really nice to people. There was very low antisocial behavior, because then if you got expelled from all the provinces, you had to go to what was essentially the capital province where, the big guns lived, and you got sent to a workhouse and you got 3 chances. You would work there for a year and live there for a year, and then you could go out again and live in the world. You'd still have your social credit, but you could start building it up. And then after three chances, if you kept getting sent back to the workhouse, you then just remain there for the rest of your life. And that was the reality under socialism. Now, if you ask a socialist activist how they think housing would work, they would never tell you anything like that. They would never mention leaseholds. They would never mention anything like that. They would just say that everyone got free housing. And it was never free housing. You still had to work and pay your rent. And not only did you have to pay rent, you had to pay community fees. So a proportion of your wage went towards social programs within your local community on top of your taxes that went to the wider community, so all the provinces. So you had to pay that on top of everything else. But if you ask a pro-socialist activist how they think that works, they can't tell you anything. They can't give you any logistics. They can't tell you how they think logistically and in reality how housing 10 million people in a community, in a society, is going to work. It's just, again, it is complete fantasy. So anyway, I need to start wrapping this up because I need to go to work. So I guess the key point that I'm trying to make is that you keep critiquing those billionaires and you keep raging against the machine. Just make sure that while you're doing it, maybe look in the mirror every now and then. Because if you really hated capitalism as much as you claim you do, you wouldn't be wearing it and eating it and tweeting about it. You would be doing something to actually change it. But that's the big catch, isn't it? Changing it would mean having to give up the convenience, the clothing, the stuff, and nobody really wants that. Not really. Anyway, I need to go to work now, so this is Casey signing off. I will be back again tomorrow night for day 5. Yes, day 5 of 2025. So in the meantime, stay weird, stay safe out there, and have a good night.